Hello and welcome to First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, is my best man, Chris Nicolay. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good. I'm recovering.
Nice.
I spent way too much time with that. Was in way too hard of vacation mode.
You just had all the fun.
I did. It was a good time.
And with us, I was trying to think of something to say that wasn't crazy, but is Emma. Emma, how are you
Hi,
doing?
I am also tired, but for a completely different reason that is not vacation related, but is in fact wildfire related. That includes evacuations and snowstorms, of all things. But
Snowstorms
I
are the
am
best.
alive, so that is the long and the short, and I am thankful I am alive.
Mm-hmm. We are glad you are doing well, or as well as you can be
Yes,
in the midst of what you're going
hiding
through.
away in a
Yeah.
hotel room somewhere.
Yeah. This week, we're talking about AOC playing Among Us. We're talking about Moon Knight. We got new iPhone news and some new D&D subclasses on top of all of our other stuff. And then, of course, we're going to wrap up with a top three. And this week, we're doing our top three monsters. Before we get into that, listeners, as always, you can find us on our social media, which is One Geek 411 on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation community. I think PlayStation communities are going away, so we need to take that out of the thing. My bad. You can also
Are
join
they?
our Discord server. I think so. Wow, I don't
I
know.
don't know. Who knows how that
There's so
works?
many
Just
like
go with it.
PlayStation changes that like I just haven't read all of the announcements on because people are super upset about some of them because they like ruined chat, like the easiest thing to not ruin.
Mm.
They just messed it all up. But if you want to talk to us about that, you can do that in our Discord server or at our email, 1stgeek411 at gmail.com. Or you can check out our show notes on our website, onegeek411.com. You can watch live on every Monday night on Twitch, 6:45 Mountain Time. We do a great post-show chat. Then you can find the episodes later over on our YouTube. And if you're a podcast listener, you can rate and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. So with that, let's get into what we've been up to this past week. Chris, we missed you last week. What all were you up to?
So I've been up. There's like 2 weeks of things. So I did fly out, visit my sister in Maine, Portland, Maine. Um, and it was great. Although Maine's still predominantly shut down. I mean, everything's just outdoor seating, which sucks. Saturday is rainy, but just kind of explored. Gained 5 pounds. It was great.
Nice.
I ate all the food. One nice thing about COVID, and I hope this doesn't change when we're over this, is that airlines are now loading back to front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this just not the standard?
I have a feeling that they won't keep that because then their first class passengers will get a bit picky.
They still do. They still give priority boarding to their like cardholder members and everything.
Oh, so they did like first class and then did back to front.
So they do essentially. They do people who do need extra time. So people with children under 2, military, and then they do essentially they the first class. So I mean, like they're more likely to get sick. That's fine. It's not my problem. That's what
Clearly
if
they've
they
got the
really
money.
want to be on the plane first. That's perfectly fine. I don't care. But everything else, like the economy portion was always just so obscure. You're in boarding class 5 just because like it.
Yeah.
Like okay.
Well, for some airlines, it depends on if you check in 24 hours beforehand or not.
But and then you can like pay to get the early check-in, so it automatically checks you in.
Yeah.
It's that way they get your money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will never do that. But yeah, it was super nice. So that they're like, yeah, boarding rows 40 to 35. And then boarding rows, I'm like, this is wonderful. And it's like so much faster.
Yeah.
And you don't have to sit there and awkwardly squeeze by everyone. And it's like, okay, you just. kind of
Yep.
funny. And I'm like, this should be the normal. This is. But yeah, so that was super fun. I got to play Pokemon community event. Community Saturday was the Saturday I was in Maine, so got lots of shiny Charizards.
Nice.
Got like too many.
Can't stop, won't stop.
I mean, it's just one of those things like where I was just out walking downtown. I just had my Pokeball Plus catching everything around me, and I looked and I was like, oh, that's like 16 shiny Charmanders.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and so I did that, and then I've kind of just been coasting on that vacation mode since then. But I've also been doing like daily tasks in Genshin Impact, so I'm still playing that here and there. Although I'm just mostly trying to do daily stuff like the tasks and stuff. And then also as a result of watching the first couple episodes of Star Trek Discovery, which just started back up a couple weeks ago. I also went back and watched the Lower Decks, which is the animated series, comedy series. It reminds me a lot of Futurama. But it's like it follows like the second contact ship instead of like the first contact, like the Enterprise. It's like the lesser known vessels that are just there to do cleanup and maintain relationships, I guess.
Do all the dirty work.
Right. And it's not. It's pretty good. It's funny. It has some good humor. There's a lot of great Star Trek references in it. All in all, like, it's definitely not the best animated like series, and I've always had a problem with like American humor in terms of animated humor, like, and animation. It's like our animation sucks sometimes. But Lower Decks is pretty well done, and if you are a Star Trek fan, I would recommend it, for sure. Also been trying to get caught up on watching some anime. Hopefully I'll have the shows I'm watching for the current season solidified by next week, so we can talk about that some other time. But then I've watched a few other random Netflix things like The Unicorn. It's a weird family show. I don't know. And also started watching Queen's Gambit last night, which is like a period piece revolving around a female chess prodigy. It's not a true story, but pretty good so far. I'm enjoying that one. But I'll give you my full review once it's a little mini series. So once we have that done, that's what I've been up to. That's it.
Nice. Emma, what about you?
So lots of stuff going on this week. As kind of mentioned earlier, we had to book it out of town due to wildfires. So my two positive things this week were getting to start the Crown Tundra on my Pokemon Sword game, because that came out and that was super fun. It's really exciting to be able to capture some of the legendary Pokemon from older games, but in a like they have like new versions of them, which is really fun. And I've also started playing Among Us,
Nice.
which has been a lot of fun. I haven't played it until yesterday or today, I think, and I've been really enjoying it and have had a couple of successful wins already. So those are my two big things.
I downloaded Among Us and then just haven't played it. we were I have it on my phone. We were talking about doing it with like our D&D group instead of D&D one night, and then we just did something
Didn't
else
get around
instead.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so but it's on my list. I know we've had some behind the scenes talks about some Among Us streams.
Yeah.
And so
well, and there's been some chats with a friend group of mine over Facebook of having an Among Us game night, because we usually connect together about once a month and play like Jackbox or something. So
I just know I'm gonna be really bad at that game.
Yeah, I just figured it'd be good to like get familiar with it first before we jump into anything like that. So at least I do know how to play the game to some extent. So
Like I could probably figure out how to play. The problem is
Yeah,
like you have to talk to
it's
people, and
it's
the second I'm the
pretty.
imposter, like it's not that like I can do fine like if I want to be, but like I feel like the humor in that game is too much for me to keep it to myself.
Yeah,
Just don't be sus.
yeah.
I'm gonna be
Don't be
sus, and even if I'm not the imposter, I'm gonna be like
right away. Yeah.
interesting,
Hmm.
interesting, very. I don't know what you're talking about.
So for
But I
me,
Also-
saw him in the electrical room with the whatever.
Chris just makes up rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was in the
exactly.
library.
I was doing
It's not
this.
a library.
I
Chris,
was
there
doing
is
that-
no library.
What? What type of ship doesn't have a library? I thought these ships would be like
This one.
I'd be like, I was just reading my book.
Yeah, that's my cue
Chris
for
did
not
it,
doing
everyone.
tasks.
All right? Or it's just before we even
like,
start
have
the
you
game,
met
Chris
me?
did it.
Even if I didn't, I was just it's like I was just standing here.
Yeah.
I really like the theory for Among Us that ultimately the imposters are actually the good guys,
Yeah.
which is why they know how to navigate the vents.
The vent system, yeah.
And like they self-sabotage their ship because they were invaded, so like that's why all the repairs have to be done and everything. I don't know.
Interesting. I had not heard that.
I really like that theory regarding it. And
I mean,
it's just like it makes sense.
yeah. When you get into playing the game, it makes a lot of sense. That the imposters are the original owners of the ship or whatever. It's just it does put it. It's like that question of telling a story from the bad guy's point of view rather than the good guys. Because in Among Us, the imposters seem like the bad guys.
Just because they're killing things, but they're trying to kill invaders.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Because I mean, like, just in general, it makes sense that these guys, like the people that took over their ship, don't know their way around it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just running around trying to complete these repairs so they can further take it over. And then the imposter, it's like the original owner, reinfiltrates their group and just starts killing them. Just like, get off my ship.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that theory so much.
So
And
for
it
me,
works.
this past weekend, streamed some more Death Stranding. So that was a ton of fun. Also for Emma, watched more Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And so we just watched the Robin Hood episode.
Oh, that's a good
And
episode.
so,
How's your Lion April coming?
you know,
Yeah, that's
Chris,
what
I
I
watched
thought.
some more Doctor Who. And I also have gotten into the hype train and started playing Genshin Impact. And so
What do you think so
I'm-
far?
it's fine.
I mean,
like, I'm
it's a
definitely-
free game.
Yeah. It's very well done for a free game. And the gotcha is definitely there. The first time I did like a super pool, like a 10 fate pool, and got 0, 4, or 5 stars.
Wait, what? That should be impossible.
It should be. I think I got 1 4-star.
You have to
I
get
don't know,
one.
but
You're guaranteed 1, 4, or 5 star.
yeah.
And, a
And
10.
so that was rough. Because it was like a weapon I already had or whatever.
Well, you use it to refine your other weapons. So.
I know how it
Okay,
works.
okay. Just making sure.
Um,
There's so many weird things they don't teach you.
but yeah, so I'm enjoying it. I don't know how much I'll play. Like, it's definitely one of those games that feels like I'm just playing until something else comes along, but I'm definitely having fun.
That's where the draw is, though. Is
Yeah.
like, it's like I'm waiting for PS5. I'm waiting for these big games.
Mhm.
But this feels a very good open world niche for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gacha aspect, I'm definitely feeling it a little more. Although I have my solid 4 to 6 characters that I regularly use. But yeah,
For me, some of it is, I mean, obviously with the loot box side of it, is it's so random who all you get. So I think I have 5, not 5. I think I have 3 electric people and 3 fire people and 1 ice.
I only have 2 fire people.
And so it's just like, well, this, like, it's one of those of like, and the ice one is one you get from the story. And so I'm just like, don't mind
I'm
me.
happy they give you characters that you can so that you can balance out your team at least. so you can make sure you have the elements that you need.
Right.
So I mean that's a plus, and then everything else is just more.
Megan, I'm at adventure rank 15 right now. I think I just hit that, so I'm close to getting to co-op, and so which is the main
Nice.
reason I wanted to get into it. But we'll see.
Let me know.
And then in celebration of book club, we watched Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow.
I didn't realize he made a Sleepy Hollow movie. Is it a movie?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't realize he made a movie of it.
Johnny
Yeah.
Depp is Ichabod.
Yep.
Why is that not a surprise?
Right. Why is it not surprising
I
that
mean,
Tim Burton
Why is that
cast
not a
the one guy
surprise?
who's cast in
You know,
every
Tim
role in
Burton.
his
It's
movie?
Tim Burton.
Yeah. And so it's good. It's funny because it's rated R, and it definitely would not be R today.
Oh no.
Like
definitely
it's
not
one of
right.
those like sometimes when you watch old movies, it's like this is rated G, and it's like they just dropped 5 F-bombs.
Yeah.
And other times you get stuff like this where like people get decapitated, but it's almost comical.
Mhm.
And so
Well, oh wait, is it the one where he has a pumpkin as his head, or is that another one?
That's a
it's a different
Okay,
one.
I think
There is
I
a
watched
pumpkin, but
This
one
one
as
is
a
little
kid.
more. It's definitely a little more darker and gritty because it's Tim
Okay,
Burton,
so it's
they
more
didn't-
Tim Burton-y.
Right.
Okay, because the most exposure I had to Sleepy Hollow growing up was what I think it must have been like Disney or something
Mhm.
Disney-ish,
Is it
where he had a pumpkin for a head.
right? I think it's on Disney Plus. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's the Disney animated series.
Mhm.
Animated.
Yeah,
movie.
they did like a movie. It's
yeah.
like I mean like
Yeah.
a short. It's not a but
Yeah, it's not a full movie, but
and so it's good. I definitely enjoyed it, and it's definitely very different from the book. So like we can talk more about that on Thursday at 6:45 right here on twitch.tv/1geek411. But it's kind of one of those that like I hadn't like read the book yet or done the audiobook. And so I was going through it. I'm like, this isn't how I remember this story going. And then like today I did the audiobook and I'm like, oh, it's because it's completely different. Got it. There is an Ichabod and there is a headless horseman. And that's about the the similarities.
While I was out east, I thought about convincing my sister and her new husband to take a road trip down to Sleepy Hollow, which Sleepy Hollow didn't exist at the time the book was made. They actually, just saying, it's a fictional town, originally. But I thought
they
it'd be
made it
cool.
into a tourist
Well,
destination.
like a town renamed themselves Sleepy Hollow, kind of making themselves into like a touristy place. Yes.
Yeah, like Forks, Washington, when the Twilight thing was.
But Forks was originally
thing.
a real place. Like
Yeah,
Forks,
but then they
Washington
took
existed
advantage
prior.
of it.
Right. But a town literally changed their name to take advantage of it instead of just like, hey, we're just going to, this is a big thing and they wrote us into the story. We're just going to take advantage, you know? But yeah, pretty much. But, you know, like 1800 style.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into our news segments for this week, starting as always with video games. Speaking of Among Us, this past week, I guess it was this past week.
Yes.
Yes, it was still technically this week. And so AOC, one of the New York representatives, streamed Among Us to what is one of the highest viewed Twitch streams. Breaking what is it 439,000 concurrent viewers, and so and had people who was it had Representative Omar was on there as well as some other actual popular like streamer people, and so they did it as part of a campaign with iwillvote.com. So this is our plug for if you're in the US and you're
Go
over
vote.
18. And
Go
so,
vote.
Done.
And so
Vote, vote, vote.
Vote early, if possible.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
so
in general, like the campaigns currently, like I know Texas, like is already at like 80% of just early voting, what the like of the 2016 election cycle.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, and that's just early voting. That's
I think it was
We're at like 60 something.
8.9 million voted in 2016 in Texas, and we're at like yesterday we were at like 6.7 million. And so obviously more today since yesterday was a weekend, but
which is good. We need it. Everyone vote. I need to go drop off my ballot still. I mean, I voted. I've checked it all off.
Just got to mail it.
No, I'm not mailing it. I'm going to go drop it off at the polling station.
You're going to do it yourself in person?
Well, I'm going to drop
to some extent.
I'm going to drop it in a ballot, like a essentially mail piece at the county building.
Yeah, no, that's what I did.
I would mail it, but I think last weekend was actually the deadline for it to guarantee it, and I ain't taking no risks.
We went and actually did in-person voting. It was pretty quick. I think we were in and out in 20, 30 minutes. And so, not a huge line. They sanitized everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was wearing masks.
Good.
Yeah. That's the important step.
I'm semi-surprised.
Yeah.
I guess you're in the city.
Right.
So
we'll throw a link to the article, and you can watch, of course, AOC's Twitch stream.
It's actually really entertaining.
Watch the VOD for it. I need to go and watch it. I'd meant to tune in, but
I think there was like one of the games where both AOC and Ilhan were the imposters. That was one of the best ones. But yeah, it was good. I think they should just they should stream more often, like anything.
Yep. I think I saw someone that did a breakdown, and it's like, if she was allowed to keep the money from the subs, AOC made 75% of her salary.
Wow.
Dang.
I think it was something like crazy like that. Like, now granted, part of why she drew that big of an audience is because she is a representative that's, connecting with the kids.
Because she's a kid herself. I mean, like, she's like the perfect person to I mean, like, it's reasonable for her to be doing these streaming and stuff where it doesn't feel like a weird, awkward thing where like most of the old people in Congress or whatever would be like, I'm just doing this to seem relevant.
Completely agree.
It's like, no, you're not.
And some other news, Justin posted this in our Discord. So shout out to Justin and to our Discord. Destruction All-Stars has been delayed and is now part of February's PlayStation Plus. So this is the like semi-actiony, brighter colored Twisted Metal, like car combat game. So
yeah, they delayed it, and I like this idea so much because I mean, just think of all the games that just hit it big because they were a PlayStation Plus game.
Right. And one of the things that I was talking about in chat was it seems like a great move for a new IP that is very multiplayer focused. Mm-hmm. Like to pick on the current ones, like you have Fall Guys, that was a huge thing right away.
Yep.
And then you have Among Us, which is the opposite, where it was a 2-year-old game that just finally took off. Like the odds of that happening are so slim for a game. And so like that kind of felt like Destruction All-Stars was going to get just kind of sent out to pasture. Like it just wasn't going to garner that audience that it really needed as a multiplayer heavy game. But when you give it to everyone as part of PlayStation Plus.
Yep. I mean, it gets you a lot of notoriety. I mean, like Fall Guys. I mean, Rocket League took off really big right after being a free game on PlayStation Plus. I mean, I probably would have never I wouldn't pay for that game.
Mm-mm. Especially without a free trial type thing either.
Well, it's just so great because it gets big, and then people are like, I didn't get it while I was on PlayStation Plus, and now they have to pay for it. And I'm like, sucker.
Yeah.
Right. And that'll be a big thing for everyone with PlayStation Plus is to remember that even if you don't have the system, you can still claim the games.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you have PlayStation Plus. So you got to make sure once they start including PlayStation Plus games or PlayStation 5 games in your PlayStation Plus, you got to make sure to grab them.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's useful to know because I was wondering about that.
Mm-hmm. I think you have to do it through the PlayStation Store,
Yes.
Right,
like
which would
website,
make sense.
like
Yeah.
PlayStation.com, PlayStation
Yeah.
Store.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to make sure to do that. That way you can have them for when, if you ever get a PlayStation 5.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
Yeah, I still have like a ton of PlayStation Vita games.
It
As
lives.
a result, because well, I mean, I can play them on my PlayStation TV, but it's just like, yeah, I'm just claiming. I just log in once a month, claim everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if I don't have the console, just like I want that. We'll take.
Might as well.
That's how you do.
Just so that when I eventually get one day my PlayStation 5, I'll actually have things to play.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Chris, you're bringing our next news story about beloved publisher Bethesda. What do you got for us?
So this is a really weird lawsuit. So Bethesda got. So the lawsuit previously existed. Bethesda was just recently named in it. But they're being sued for $100 million after intentional sabotage of the game Rune 2 to protect their Elder Scrolls series. So obviously Rune 2, number 2 in that indicates it was a sequel to a previous game from game developer Roundhouse Studios. No, sorry. Human Head Studios. Which went out of business the day Rune 2 launched.
Oof.
And then was reopened the same day as Roundhouse Studios because they were purchased by ZeniMax, the umbrella company over Bethesda. So the complaint is ultimately because Rune 2 is a Norse style game, very similar to like the story and gameplay of Skyrim, for the most part, probably minus the dragons, I think. And so the accusation is that ultimately, since it was similar, that when Bethesda or ZeniMax purchased and reopened the studios and didn't offers further support, they were intentionally sabotaging the game and the success of the game as a result. So they are currently being sued by. So the lawsuit was originally filed December of 2019. The original the complaint is being lodged by the original developers of the game. And yeah, so just alleging that they intentionally abandoned the game after launch to obviously protect Skyrim profits, I guess. I don't know. Kind of just an interesting chain of events. The main reason I want to talk about is that is like Human Head Studios closed the day after and then reopened as a new studio under a much larger corporation. It's just kind of crazy. Never even heard of these games, but
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. I've never heard of this. Hadn't heard of this happening. Like one of the things in the article that you posted is the complaint also mentioned the PR troubles caused by the alleged sabotage, noting that in spite of the game's positive reviews, the next day Ragnarok was faced with headlines about the studio's departure and the wavering future of Rune 2 post-launch. I mean, that's definitely bad.
I mean, what happens when your studio gets shut down? Like,
yeah.
Like when you get acquired, the new company has no obligation to continue support for the previous projects.
No.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. Especially since, like, if you look at the time frame, like technically they didn't take ownership till the day of the launch.
Which is also weird.
Right.
Like on not necessarily on the ZeniMax side, but on the company side, like that's a lot going on one day that you probably don't want all happening at once.
Seriously. We're going to launch a game, close our studio, get bought, reopen under a new name. It's just a weird
a lot
chain
going
of
on
events.
in a short period of time.
Right. Also, part of it is that ultimately after ZeniMax's purchase, they refused to provide or re-release the source code back to the original developers so they can continue support and things like that. There's a few other things indicated in this. But yeah.
We'll
So does
keep
that
the
mean
listeners
technically Microsoft
informed.
is now being sued?
I mean, technically, yeah.
I mean,
Through like the weird chain of events of like Bethesda's being sued that is owned by ZeniMax, that is owned by Microsoft.
yep.
Through all the chains of technicalities.
You're right. This does just seem like a drop in the bucket. Like
Yeah.
if you're Microsoft and you paid $7.5 billion for ZeniMax, what's another 100 million? Like,
I mean, yeah, it's really not, I mean, 100 million for us is a ton. But
Yeah.
like when you consider Microsoft's acquisition of them for 7.5 billion, 100 million's like, okay, we can settle for
It's
that.
more like hush money.
We can settle. Granted the entire lawsuit's for 100 million, so like if it does settle, it's going to be probably for less than that.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not something that's likely to go to court. We're probably gonna be like, here, take your money, developers. Here's a few $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, like if I was them, I'd be like, can I settle for like 500,000? We'll just call it good.
With that, let's head on into movies, TV, anime, and entertainment. Emma, I think you added our next story.
Yeah. Oscar Isaac, rumor has it, has been cast as Moon Knight in a new Disney Plus series, which is super exciting because he's jumping back into the Marvel universe from the Star Wars universe. Because he was in the X-Men world for a little bit, and now he's back in what will hopefully be a part of Marvel that's a little bit better than the X-Men universe.
Not in what is considered one of like the worst X-Men movies out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh geez.
So Moon Knight is, for the long and the short of the people who don't know, such as myself, who had to do some digging, Moon Knight is basically Mark Spector, who is an elite soldier and mercenary who decides to fight crime after he becomes the human avatar of Khonshu. Pronunciations are terrible. My apologies. The Egyptian god of the moon. So I'm personally excited for this because I love like mythology of different cultures, especially Egyptian culture, and how those get brought into modern day fiction. So I'm just excited to see where this goes.
I really love that he was Apocalypse, which has all of the Egyptian overtones, and then is now going to be Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Which, as you just said, is the avatar of an Egyptian god.
Yeah.
Like, I just love it. Like, I mean, it's not as crazy as like the Electro stuff, but it just makes me so happy that basically they're just like, oh, we're just tweaking the backstory a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, give him a little bit different powers, but like, I mean, he's basically all the research you did for the role is fine.
Basically the exact same thing,
yeah.
but a little bit different.
Maybe they'll pull a Deadpool and just like end credit wise.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that.
Find a way to errata everything, just like this never happened.
That'd be so good.
I'm super excited for Moon Knight though. Despite like regardless of any casting decisions, I'm just liking the focus on obscure superhero characters that they really get to bring to the light. And I think also because they're obscure, it means you're just it's so much more introductory, so there's less you can do wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you pick like a major beloved character, they're like, oh, you know, the fans are always going to be comparing it to the source material and everything, and like, oh, you did this wrong, you did. So when you take a lesser known one, yes, you have the like diehard fans who love Moon Knight or have been involved with their comics, but for the most part, most of us aren't as familiar with them.
Don't really
so
have a lot of information.
I just hope this is awesome, and hopefully the story's good.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think a good illustration of that is the Guardians of the Galaxy and then the Defenders.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like no one really knew. Well, and even like MCU as a whole, like it wasn't like the big names at first, but like you got into Guardians that again, like no one had heard of at the time.
Now everyone loves
them.
them.
And then the Defenders that a lot of people knew Daredevil, but people didn't really know Jessica Jones or Iron Fist in remotely the same And then Luke Cage I was probably more popular than Jessica Jones and Iron Fist, but not as up there with Daredevil. And so like getting a series like this is such a good way to get that character introduced. You get, and I think it basically just becomes, as long as this is interesting, people are going to love Moon Knight.
Yep.
Like the bar is super low for what you said, Chris, of like, people don't really have their like preconceived like notions of this character.
Unlike with someone like Spider-Man,
Right.
where everyone's like, okay, I have an image, even if I've never even read the comics,
Right.
of how this is supposed to go.
Right.
And hopefully they'll do like hopefully Shang-Chi will get the same justice and everything.
Mhm.
Hopefully they write him well, and I just like what MCU has been doing, just bringing kind of lesser known characters and just making their own thing. For sure, I'm stoked.
And then Chris, I think you brought the next piece about a certain children's show.
I'm not sure if you guys opened this, but so
I skimmed it very briefly, and I'm somewhat concerned.
Okay.
Question mark.
Daniel Kaluuya, known for his work in Get Out, Black Panther, Widows, Judas and the Black Messiah, is kind of making his kind of directorial filmmaker debut with a project of remaking a certain children's show revolving around a giant purple dinosaur.
Named
Barney. So for those of us that grew up in the 90s, as children, early 90s, Barney and Friends, obviously, everyone knows the song I Love You, whatever, but this kind of sounds like it, like based on his interview, sounds maybe that he's putting Barney in a setting that isn't necessarily optimistic while still maintaining his optimistic persona.
I'd just like to say that Barney and its original creation still scared me as a kid.
What?
I never liked Barney in any respects.
So I don't know if I've told the story on
Barney
air
when I was young.
But so Barney was shot in Dallas. And
did you go to a live recording?
No. So when I was little, I also, like Emma, did not like Barney. No. And one of the threats that my dad would make if I was being bad is that he would make me get on the show Barney because it was filmed in Dallas. And of course, like, I believed that because I don't know how casting works. Like, and so of course I was like, oh no, anything but that. But yeah,
that's great.
So I don't have specific love for this.
I mean, so in it specifically saying, what does it say? Referring to the song I Love You, You Love Me. That's one of the first songs I remember. And what happens when that isn't true? I thought that was really heartbreaking. I have no idea why it feels like that makes sense. It feels like there's something unexpected that can be poignant but optimistic, especially at this time now. I think that's really really needed. The news source, the AV Club, has also noted on this. Kind of the protagonist remains unfailingly loving and cheerful in the face of a starkly unoptimistic time. So it's like,
yep.
In the original Barney, like it was just.
Yeah, and you skipped a quote that I really want to read because I think it's really cool. It says, and it's from the AV Club. They note it's less gritty Barney reboot and more life is gritty. Let's reboot Barney.
Yes,
which I thought that's a really cool quote.
It's not like they're just doing like, hey, what happens if we take this and make it dark and gritty? It's like, what if we just like pose like current timely situations and put Barney in the middle of it all?
So what you're saying is they're taking Barney and putting him in Mr. Rogers' shoes. I mean, because that's basically what Mr. Rogers did.
That's the crossover we need. Because Mr. Rogers also had creepy puppets.
Sure. Fair enough.
I mean, yes, in a sense, yes. Taking like real serious, like just welcome to 2020 kind of situation. And instead of like portraying a like a overly positive general world happening, posing real world situation, but let's throw a unfailingly loving and cheerful character in the middle of all that and see how we write this. I'm intrigued to see how Barney copes with with the next year.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see, not necessarily because I'll watch it, but I'm super interested to see what this will be. And so,
Yeah,
with that,
it's
I guess
just
let's
thought it
get
was really
into
funny.
our favorite named segment.
Dongle news.
Chris, what do you got for us?
So this technically happened a couple weeks ago, for the most part, but Apple did announce their new lineup, and they have 4 devices, 4 new iPhone 12s. Can you guess what they're all
Which
called?
implies what? iPhone 12 Max.
Almost. So obviously, just the general, that we obviously have the iPhone 12. We're getting the iPhone 12 mini, the iPhone 12 Pro, and the iPhone Pro Max. So iPhone 12 Pro Max.
What does any of that mean?
What are the differences?
Please translate for someone who does not follow the iPhone news because they couldn't care less, despite the fact that they use an iPhone.
Predominantly, the main differences are what cameras are in each build, and their base storage sizes. The iPhone 12 mini is kind of just a general, basic version of the iPhone 12 up-to-date system. It's going to be a slightly more underpowered. Same chip in all of them, same processor, but the voltage and the processing power is going to be reduced based on just the internal mechanisms. These are all 5G devices, so next-gen data transfer that's just not rolled out yet really anywhere. So 5G is just a gimmick right now. And also, this is the first time iPhone has specifically partnered with a carrier for the release, and it's not AT&T, it's actually Verizon this time. And actually, a large part of their showcase was run by Verizon, which was super interesting. It's also the first time where the prices you see on the iPhone Apple website aren't the actual let me purchase a unlocked phone price, but they're actually the carrier prices, so that your price at checkout might be different than what you were expecting. But in general, the cameras, like, they're really focusing obviously on making some headway against the Android market regarding camera specs. And kind of like a lot of what they were featuring were kind of the fringe, like crazy kind of situations that you can use your phone in, not your most common photography situations. But yeah, the iPhone 12 has a 12 megapixel wide and a 12 megapixel ultra wide lens. There are 3 lenses on the iPhone 12 Pro, 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and as well as a 12 megapixel telephoto.
It's a lot of pixels.
Yeah, not really.
I don't know how cameras work. I just took a guess.
Pixels. But
it was either going to be a lot or not a lot, and I took the 50-50.
Yeah. The iPhone Pro 12 starts off at 128 gigabyte storage compared to, the standard across their lines has always been like 64 most recently, in terms of the iPhone 11 lineup and things like that. But yeah, if you're an iPhone user, if you've upgraded to the iPhone 11, they are projecting that probably still hold off another year before upgrading. The jump from iPhone 11 to the iPhone 12 isn't that great, but jumping 2 generations from the iPhone 10 might be worth it at this time. They're just trying to hit like all these different markets.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Deanna says in chat that lots of vloggers use iPhones to film. So it definitely makes a lot of sense that, like, you want to hit that market of people that are just looking for a good, like good enough camera that you can do your vlogging part
That you
and
can TikTok on.
yeah, and you can just have the device that we're going to use already. And so you can kind of work it both ways versus needing to like also buy a good camera.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm kind of at the point where like having my phone be able to do everything I don't care for.
Yeah.
Because I don't like jumping back and forth between apps or like trying to navigate between different systems
Yeah.
for the most part. So I like having a dedicated device for things like photography and video.
Same here.
Granted, I don't probably do enough as I used to, but I've been working on that.
As have I, because I am
Also-
on that exact same boat. So
I know we talked about like rumors regarding the iPhone 12. Does it have a charge port, Cameron?
Isn't it not?
There were
Isn't it like-
early rumors that possibly this would be a portless device. It does
Also,
still
isn't
charge
it
off
not
the
was a
light.
great. Isn't it not was a great sentence. I'm super proud of that.
It does still have a lightning port. Still using the freaking lightning port.
I mean, Apple likes their dongles.
The thing is they've switched all their other devices to USB-C. Oh, also, something about this device. iPhone 12s will not ship with a charging brick.
Oh yeah, that's what I remember seeing. Okay.
Yeah. They will come with the charging cable, so lightning cable. Also, the iPhone 12s are the first launch for their MagSafe lineup. So the MagSafe charging capabilities, as well as like the MagSafe built into the phone. So
what is that? What does that mean?
MagSafe is like the magnetic. So essentially, there's a square magnet built into the back of the phone now. That now, so this is what they're planning is ultimately that they will do away with the port eventually, the charge port, because it is a failure point. And that their next gen essentially is all going to be wireless charging for the most part, but specifically on a MagSafe format, so you can throw your phone over a MagSafe, it'll catch where it needs to, and charge over the MagSafe. Also, obviously, your phone holders for your car will probably be more MagSafe reliant. Currently, they make cases that you can put a magnet in, so you can just hit your phone, and obviously be in place for if you have wireless charging as well, things of the sort. So they're kind of pushing toward that a little more with this device. We'll see what the future holds or how much those devices cost. Ultimately, they did announce that the reason why they're not shipping with charging bricks is that it's to reduce their carbon footprint, and people buy third-party chargers anyway. So this is officially saying,
Right.
you know how we used to say that you should really be using the Apple brick for charging your Apple devices. Yeah, that was all BS.
It turns out we just wanted your money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, who could have seen that coming?
Here's the other thing, though. Like all previous Apple devices, the charging brick is USB-A, so the square USB to Lightning. The cable that comes with the device is USB-C to USB to the Lightning port.
Weird.
So if you do have a previous generation charging brick, you can't use it with the iPhone 12 device because, well, I mean, unless you're using your old cable, because the cable is USB-C to Lightning port. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah,
So
that's
either way,
definitely
you
a
have to go
mess.
out and buy a charging port so your while Apple's carbon footprint has been reduced, there's still carbon footprint because you have to go buy a charging port if you don't have a USB-C
It's crazy.
style socket.
With
Apple
that,
guys.
let's get into the tangibles. We where we talk all
Tic-tac-toe.
things board games, Magic the Gathering, D&D. This week we got two things. Today was the first official day of Commander Legends spoilers for the latest supplemental Magic set. So we'll have more of a conversation about that later, but just kind of want to call that out after like a huge chunk of the set leaked because someone stole a box of cards or some boxes of cards and then sold them on eBay. And so like everything was in German and leaked because of what they opened. But and then the person was like, oh no, Wizards made me give it back. I didn't know it was stolen. Really? Whatever.
I mean, you're buying something well before launch and you don't
right.
know. Are you sure? It's pretty obvious.
Right. So that was a thing that occurred. Super excited to talk more about it once we do a Commander, or if we do a Commander Legends show. And then in the world of D&D, today Greg posted this in the Discord. We got a new Unearthed Arcana with 2 new subclasses that are focused around the idea of being empowered by dragons.
Yes.
And so
it is playtest material still currently, so
right.
like none of this is officially set.
Yeah.
But will likely be finalized in the coming months.
So good point. As always, Unearthed Arcanas are playtest. And so if you play it now and then come back after it's printed in an official source, there will be things that are different.
Yeah.
Or it'll just be scrapped completely.
That too. So, like you decisions.
One of those.
50-50 chance here.
Something's gonna
right.
happen.
So I just want to call this out because I really liked the theme. So there's a subclass for the monk. That's the Way of the Ascendant Dragon. And then there's a new ranger called the Drake Warden. And they are both centered on this idea of like studying dragons and based on your connection with your dragon origin.
I want to play both of these.
Yeah.
I mean, like in general, like this ranger subclass is very close to like how I rolled my ranger in general, where like my favorite animal were draconic anyway. And I like this. I like this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really like a lot of what they do with the UAs. My warlock that I'm playing in the play by post has a UA subclass. So I'm doing the genie patron.
Ooh.
And so I really like this idea. Like I said, that's the big reason I want to bring this up, is that these are just very cool, very thematic. Chris, for us as Magic players, like the Way of the Ascendant Dragon is very Jeskai.
Yep.
Like you could very much flavor and like play Narset if you wanted to do something like that.
Don't steal his ideas.
Don't give my ideas up.
Yeah, stop. Now everyone's gonna be doing it. Thanks.
So yeah, I really like those. I really like those themes. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't release something spoopy, with it being like if you're gonna do an Unearthed Arcana release right before Halloween, this seems like the prime time to do something like.
It's probably just something that looks like we don't have anything else prepared.
Right. I mean, definitely could be that. But it just seems like, because they've been kind of quiet recently with UAs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just really, like I said, I'm just really surprised that this is the one that you chose to launch right before. But it's a really cool set of subclasses. So, I mean, no complaints, but.
Still better than nothing.
Exactly.
It's something. It's always fun. I love Unearthed Arcana, and I'm gonna make some NPCs at the very least, depending on, or have a plan for a character if I need one.
Yep. All those backups.
It's like, that's why I like just making random characters, because either way, they're gonna become an NPC somewhere along the line if I don't get to play them, or when I do get to play them, it's just gonna be fun. Also, those are my 2 favorite classes.
That wraps up our news segments. And so real quick, we want to just give a shout out that, again, I mentioned this at the top of the show, but Thursday is book club right here, 6:45. We're doing The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's super short.
You can read it between now and then.
Yes. I listened to the audiobook today, and it's like an hour and a half audiobook. And so it's very quick. It's a very fun read, or listen, I guess. But big shout out. So we'll be back here Thursday night, 6:45 Mountain Time, chatting about Sleepy Hollow. And then that brings us into our top 3 list of the week. we are talking about who or what are some of your favorite monsters. And so we got some responses over on our Twitter from someone named Shanine Thompson. Don't know who that is.
Don't know. Never heard of her.
Says, I'm a sucker for the classic Dracula and Frankenstein, but my favorite has got to be the Weeping Angels.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good shout out to our Doctor Who special from last week. And so then Justin says, I like the versions of all the classic monsters that were in Monster Squad. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Awesome movie. And then someone named Angie asks if Rocky Horror Picture Show counts. And I said, if it counts in your heart, it counts for us. Because there are no rules.
Yeah.
The first rule of the top three.
We don't put that much thought
Are
into
then.
it.
Yeah, no.
So you could take it at face value or you can twist it however you want.
Yeah.
That's fine. I do it all the time.
And then Stranger Damies. It's an actual play D&D podcast. They said Godzilla, who is, after all,
it's a good one.
The king of monsters. And so, big shout out to our Twitter responses. And so, let's get started with our top three. Emma, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. My first is the alien from Alien, because it's such a cool, a different, I guess you could consider it a monster in some sense. It's a different sort of take on alien life, because we're so used to, in movies and media, aliens either looking very humanoid or like bacteria, if it's a live action movie, if you will, and because those are the easiest things to accomplish. But with the alien, it's like this big, sure, it looks vaguely humanoid, but it's got this giant, weirdly shaped head and all of these random things coming out of it. And it's super smart and intelligent, and yeah.
Nice. Chris, what do you got?
My first one is one of my favorite, mostly probably because of the armor you get from it. But the Odogaron from Monster Hunter World.
Mm-hmm.
Is a monster, right? Yeah. I mean, I love
Again,
all
Chris,
the monsters.
there are literally no rules.
I know.
No
I love
rules.
all the monsters from Monster Hunter World, for the most part. But this one has a special place because the armor is. I love it. It's it's my favorite armor set in the game.
For my first one, I decided to go with a group, and it's zombies, but especially how they're represented in the movie Omega Man, which is based in the same book as I Am Legend. So like in that version of it, like the zombies are actually like intelligent and arguably smarter than people. And so it's a really interesting take on that idea of like, to what you said about like the bacteria of like the disease that infects you. It definitely like changes you and makes you non-human, but you're kind of better off.
Yeah.
And so it's a super interesting take. And so, yeah, zombies from Omega Man.
So my next one are the water creatures from the waters of Mars, which is a Doctor Who episode, in part because that's one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes, but also because it's like the humanoid monster that's not a classical monster. That's one of my favorites, because it's a bacteria, speaking of bacteria, that they get infected with by drinking the water on Mars. So now I'm like, whenever I see a news story from NASA or whoever going, there may be water on Mars, I'm like, don't drink the water on Mars. You're gonna like turn into this leaky faucet.
Yes.
That just takes over your brain. So, yeah.
New telescope technology has revealed that like they can prove water on the moon.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Sorry, just.
Chris, what's your number two?
The Final Fantasy Adamantoise. Because always a tough battle, also just shout out to the Final Fantasy 15 iteration, which was a phenomenal boss fight. Took forever.
Yeah. So people that don't know, Chris, what is this?
Adamantoise is essentially a mountain turtle.
Yeah. So it's one of those. It's definitely a trope you see in other places.
Yes.
But yeah, it even kind of ties in like with Avatar: The Last Airbender with like the lion turtles. It's kind of that same trope. So.
Yep. So the Adamantoise, obviously, so like it goes all the way back to the original Final Fantasy 2, as one of the kind of it's typically an elective boss, but it's also where you get like obviously you get material typically that's used in like higher end. So the Adamantoise hide is used for high end armors and stuff like that. If there's a crafting system in the game or anything like that. But yeah, it is the giant tanky turtle that is, at least in 15, a hour-long boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long one. You just keep grinding at it, keep grinding at it. It's like not hard. It just takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My next one, I think to the joy of everyone on this podcast, is dinos, but especially the robot kind. So big shout out, especially to like the Thunderjaw from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
I loved that take on the giant, like the giant dinosaurs and giant creatures in general. They're not all dinosaurs, but that's probably one of my favorite interpretations of that big giant monstery trope. Is you make
guys
it
gotta
like,
watch the new Zoid series.
all about those Zoids.
I mean, it's literally just Horizon Zero Dawn once they have like tames and machines. It's
Okay,
here's what
wait,
that's literally
because
what
I know
it
I'm
is.
gonna forget. You have to put it on the host recommendations.
It's not a
thing.
good series. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It is not
You're
a good
still
series.
recommending it to people.
I'm recommending it to those who are fans of Horizon because it is literally just Horizon Zero Dawn in anime form. And
which is the point of that channel.
Great. So my point is I've already forgotten what it's called. So my point is put it in the channel and say for people who like Horizon Zero Dawn.
Pretty sure I'm the only
I
one that's
forget things
posted in that
very
channel.
quickly, so
I'll post it now.
I like it. Emma, what is your number 3?
Dracula, because it's like a solid representation of vampires that don't glitter in the sun, and it's a proper scary monster when you actually read the book or watch a well-done movie. Like, vampires are not supposed to sparkle in the sun, if you ask me. And Dracula is a great representation and a classic representation of vampires from like their original, if you will, or just like all of the stories that have been handed on through history.
It's a great one. Great classic.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're no Dr. Acula, but Chris, what's your number 3?
My number 3, this just because I don't know why this movie has just a special. It's not good either. Honestly, the monster's not that. I mean, it has aspects to its lore, but Jeepers Creepers.
Mm.
I don't know why. I don't know. It's just one of my favorite very bad attempt at like horror movies, but it was like predominantly bright during the movie, which was really obnoxious. Like I typically, if I'm going to watch a horror movie, it needs to be like dark, eerie, and people need to be scared in the dark. Whereas this one takes like predominantly place during daylight, and it's weird. But I don't know. It's just a different take on the horror movie genre. And it is a actual monster creature that was just made up. But yeah, Jeepers Creepers. Where'd you get them peepers?
Deanna posted her top 3 in chat, which made me completely rethink my number 3. And so I'll read mine and then we can get to what she had posted. But so I put Sully and Mike as my revised number 3.
Yeah.
They're just, I love them. And I completely don't know why I didn't think of this, but I love the Monsters Inc. take on monsters. Like just their design, everything. I love that, this idea that monsters are scary just because it's a job. Like it's not who they are, but like it's just something that they do to like power their city. And then I love Sully and Mike's friendship. Like that's such a great part of that movie. And so so good. Love Monsters Inc. So in chat, Deanna put Roz from Monsters Inc. with the always watching. Fano from Pan's Labyrinth. Which is that's a very iconic one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
is on my short list.
What's the from that movie, the one with the eyes?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name, but that was probably my favorite. The eyes, the guy with the eyes in his hands.
That
someone could tell me, I'm sure, in the comments, but
I think that is what we're
talking
about.
I think that is Fano.
Yeah.
That is? Yes. Okay.
At least I thought that was Fano.
That's what I was thinking.
I could be wrong.
Maybe, do I have names wrong? Because that's what I was thinking.
I've only seen the movie once, so.
Oh, wait.
That's the iconic one that I came up with, but.
Apparently Fano might just be the fawn. It's just the translation of it because it takes place in Spain.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's just the name of the actual fawn. That's in Pan's Labyrinth, not the one with the eyes.
Yeah, Diana says Fano is the fawn.
Okay. I'm trying to go to their wiki, and they literally only have 2 characters on the Pan's Labyrinth wiki, so I can't help Deanna out there. And apparently Doug Jones, the actor, plays both Fano and the Eye Dude.
The Eye Dude.
The Eye Dude. And so
whoever you are, that's my favorite one from that movie.
Yeah. And
is he just known as the Pale Man? Yeah, okay.
That makes sense. And so and then what else was I gonna say? We got a shout out to the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus from Chuck the Hut. And so, which again is another great, like witches are another one of those great classic ones. And it's always fun to see that I like the comedic takes on things because I like laughing. Mm-hmm. And so the Sanderson sisters are definitely a great one. I guess with that, it's time to wrap up this episode. Next week, we are going to have some guests on the podcast, and we are going to be chatting about our top 3 swords with Mike and James from Geek at Arms. So tune in next week for that.
Woohoo!
And so, Chunk, thank you again for gifting a sub. We appreciate you a lot. And Deanna's number 3. I stopped reading. Then Louis from Interview with a Vampire. I don't know what that one is specifically. So Deanna, we will have to watch that one. And so
it's the Tom Cruise movie, isn't it?
Brad Pitt. Yeah, Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
And so we will hang out for a little bit, of course, and do our post-show chat. But before we get into that, as always, listeners, you can find us at OneGeek411 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can join our Discord if you want to chat with us between shows. You can also shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com and watch live on our Twitch Monday nights at 6:45 Mountain Time. And then you can find the videos over on our YouTube. If you're a podcast listener, we would really appreciate it if you would rate and subscribe. And then, of course, you can check out the show notes on our website, onegeek411.com. where you can find our sister podcast, Faith, Trust, and Pixie Dust. Then if you want to connect with us personally, you can do that through our personal social media. Mine's Humar Whittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I.
And I'm not so foreign. That's NOTSO4EIGN. Wash your hands.
I love you.
Don't play with fire.
That's a very important call out.